Do you have friends in Parliament?
Do I have friends in Parliament?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Are they your colleagues or are your MP colleagues? Or
they're a mix. They're a mix. Sir Roger Douglas has become a good friend. You know, he's been a great supporter of mine, particularly over the last 18 months. And one of the great things about having gone to Parliament is meeting people like him that I share a basic philosophy with and actually work on issues with, trying to further them.
So doesn't it worry you then that there's no young Roger Douglases? There's no one in ACT that's sort of coming through with the same sort of ideological sort of dynamism and what you might see as vision.
I'd certainly like to see more of that, but we do have a couple of young people who are coming forward, and the two young people in our top 10, for example, particularly our number 8, Stephen Whittington, fits that mould, and I've got great hopes for him.
So he's the one that those on the left should be watching out for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm hopeful that we'll get him there.
Okay. Why do you tweet so much? You're on Twitter quite a bit. Well, what's that about?
Because I enjoy it.
Because you've got heaps of followers and you do lots of tweets.
Well, basically I enjoy it. My New Year's resolution at the start of 2010 was to come to grips with social networking because I hadn't made much of an effort there, and I think that it's actually a valuable campaigning tool, and that was my primary motivation. So I worked pretty hard at sort of getting my numbers up and spending some time. To start with, I enjoyed Facebook much more. Now I like Twitter a lot more. I really struggled, I have to say, to get relevant messages into 140 characters, but once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad.
Doesn't that dumb down politics and political communication? If it's shrunk into that...
Well, you wouldn't want to rely on that as your only way of messaging, but I think that it does add a different dimension. It also reaches a completely different audience than most of our political campaigning does.
So I'm interested in this difference between Facebook and Twitter then. So how would you characterise it?
I use Twitter. Twitter's what I go to first thing in the morning. I've got all my news feeds coming through to there. So rather than having to go to 10 different sites, I go to Twitter. That's where I go through to your Liberation.
Oh, very good.
Click on that.
Okay.
Facebook I use much more as a discussion. So I inform people with Twitter. Facebook, I test ideas. I try to elicit some toing and froing in terms of bringing people out and finding out what they think about things. And so that's where I have more detailed conversations with people, I suppose.
Because we had Claire Curran here last week and she talked about Facebook being more the lounge, the more sort of relaxed place, I think, that was probably nicer, and Twitter being the more combative, I think that's what she said, and more sort of hard-headed
I guess I look at the two very differently. I wouldn't sort of describe them as rooms in the house, really. I think that Facebook is just the place where I can have more detailed and probably more philosophical debate. Facebook is more off-the-cuff stuff very often and done much more quickly.
I mean, and as I tease some of my students, I sort of Facebook for teenagers and Twitter for grown-ups.
My kids do laugh at me for doing both, but they don't engage in Twitter at all.
Yeah, well, that's right.
But they're only on Facebook, Oh, there are a few teenagers on Twitter, but mostly it is an older demographic by and large.
Sure. And you'll continue that after November 26th?
Yes, I think so. I've actually come...
It's not just an MP tool for you?
No, it started off that way, but I've actually get a lot of enjoyment out of particularly Twitter now. No, I'm intending to probably keep both of those up. My website I'm not sure about. Sure. It's harder to find the time to write in-depth blogs, and actually my primary motivation still for doing those would be political.
Sure. Now, some election predictions. I mean, are you willing to,
I'll have a stab. Predictions are always dangerous because you're always proven to be wrong later on.
I mean, I'm asked all this the time. I'm always wrong. But, I mean, ACT, how many MPs in the House will it have after
I'd like to think that we can get 5.
Oh, you'd like to think, but... so you're worried?
I'm going with 5.
You're going with 5. Okay. What about the Murray Party? What's going to happen?
I think that there'll be some splitting of their vote with Mana. I think that they will get 3 or 4 MPs.
3 or 4, okay. From all the Murray seats, of course. Okay. And Hone Harawira and Mana? What's going to happen there?
It's hard to predict. I think maybe 2.
Okay.
Maybe 2 of them will be there.
And do you think that's something that's going to be on the landscape, the political landscape, for a long time, or is that just a short-term flash in the pan situation?
I think their intention is certainly to be there long term. I'm not sure that there's room for 2 Maori parties.
Right.
And Hone already, you know, quite early in the piece, said that he really wanted to merge the Maori Party and Mana back, and I was thinking, well, hello, you know, you've just come from there. Okay. So I'm not sure that there's room in the landscape for two of them, and so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But whether there's going to be an arm wrestle between the two of them, whether they'll find niches of their own, I think it's really hard to predict at the moment.
Okay, and what's going to happen with Labour is the big question.
I don't know. I think that National and Labour are going to come closer together as the election approaches.
In terms of polling, you mean? Or?
Yes, in terms of polling. But and I think the election result will find them much closer together. But I think that National's going to have a tidy win, but less than 50%.
Okay. I mean, that's...
So I think they'll need... I think that they will still need coalition partners. Okay,
any other questions about election predictions or what's going to happen in the future of politics? Okay, well, what about... I guess one thing that has been on my mind a bit for the last few years, because I do occasional commentary on the ACT Party and what's happening and trying to understand it, and I remember I was being interviewed a fair bit about, I guess it was last year, about the supposed ACT coup, you know, where you were supposed to have tried to roll Rodney Hyde, and you know, it came out in a very strange way in the media, and you know, I was being interviewed and they said, well, we've talked to Heather Roy and she claims that no such thing happened, and I said, well, politicians always...
there was no coup.
No coup attempt.
No.
So...
There
what
were some
explanation can you have for,
there were some discussions about the future of the party, what our strategy should be, particularly, and we've already discussed this, about the focus on Epsom or the focus more on getting 5% of the vote. And so discussions were there. There was some discontent, I suppose, around where things were heading, but there was never a going around trying to get the numbers, which is what a coup is.
Okay, so why would it have gone into the media that...
well, things get into the media for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes they're leaked by people who think they will gain advantage by them. Sometimes the media put two and two together themselves and don't get four.
Well, that might be true, but the media were certainly saying that
and they still
have been
do.
told this.
Yeah.
So,
well, they weren't told by me.
Do you have an idea of who leaked that or who was suggesting there was a coup?
No, I mean, I don't know for sure.
Okay. I mean, to me it seems obvious that it was Rodney Hyde's camp, that they were
it might
setting
well
up...
have been, but I don't know that.
Yeah, setting up you to look like the aggressor, and therefore, I don't know, for whatever reasons, to for their own political advantage. And it seemed to work quite successfully, I thought, because a lot of us believed that there was a coup attempt.
Yeah, no, well, there certainly wasn't. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, it's been a pretty tumultuous time then in the last year.
Yeah, it has been.
So you must have a bit of emotion and sort of bad feeling about some of that?
Oh, it certainly isn't what I would have wanted, and it interrupted my ministerial career, which was a great shame for me personally, but I think also for the things that I was trying to achieve. Some of those have carried on, not quite in the way that I would have done them, but carried on. Some of them just haven't, and I think that's actually a shame for a number of reasons. Okay. Do I feel bitter and twisted? Not particularly. It's politics, and these things happen in politics.
But I'm guessing that you might be feeling a bit better about things with the more recent change of leadership with Don Brash now leading the party.
I think
he's probably more in tune with your...
Yes, I think that's probably true, although Rodney and I have never really disagreed on things philosophically. It was more around strategy and the direction of the party. But I think that Don Brash is the right leader to take the party into the election, as we've already discussed.
But failing terribly at the moment so far.
Well, the polls aren't looking that flash, but I think that, as I say, I think there is a long way for this campaign to roll out yet. We've got this huge distraction of the Rugby World Cup, and to be frank, although there's some policy announcements happening, they're not getting much in the way of traction or much discussion. People's minds are firmly focused on the Rugby World Cup, and until that's out of the way, they're not really going. Most people aren't going to turn their minds to what next for politics, and I suspect that is distorting the polls as well at the moment. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not plenty of hard work for the ACT Party to do. There is, and I think we need to look very carefully, particularly at the way that we market our policies. That's extraordinarily important. It's always important, but it's even more important because of where we are now and where we want to be.
Okay, so ACT's down but not out. You're still supporting them, campaigning for them, but this is the end of your part of the chapter. Okay, well, I think we can leave it there. We've all learnt a bit. So thanks very much for coming to Vote Chat, and I'll just remind everyone else that tomorrow we have Winston Peters at 11 a.m. and Carol Beaumont at 12 midday. So come along or tune in on the internet for that. But thanks, Heather Roy, for coming in.
Thanks very much. It's a pleasure.
Okay, thanks.